Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing what we've all been waiting for, the PlayStation 5. Let's start off by checking out this bad boy's exterior details. As we know, Sony is releasing two prototypes, the Standard Edition, which features a 4K UHD Blu-ray drive, and the Digital Edition, which won't use any physical media. In a June 12th interview with CNET, President and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Jim Ryan, did say that other than the disc drive, the two models are, quote, identical products. So in terms of storage and performance, the two consoles will be equal. Of course, their different form factors are easy to notice, but one aspect of the PlayStation 5's exterior that's easy to overlook is its massive size. Based on the standard length of a Blu-ray disc slot, fans quickly deduced that the console will stand 15.74 inches tall. To put that in perspective, the PS4 Pro stands 12.9 inches tall, and the Xbox Series X, while significantly wider, is just 11.85 inches tall. As for you'll fit that into your entertainment center, you can obviously stand it upright, but you can also lay it horizontally if that's your style. When it comes to ports, we know that both versions will feature a USB-A and a USB-C port, with the USB-C port being used to charge the controller. We have not seen the back of the console, so we don't know if it have anything beyond the standard power and HDMI ports. Lastly, on the Standard Edition, we can see what appears to be a power and an eject button, while the Digital Edition just shows a power button. Now let's talk about the DualSense controller. While the DualSense is taking a tremendous difference from the DualShock 4 in terms of looks, it also has a ton of new features. First is the haptic feedback. Haptics, if you're not aware, provide physical feedback identical to rumble, but are much more precise and allow for many different sensations. For instance, a driving game can simulate what it might feel like to hold a steering wheel as you drive through grass, mud, gravel, or other pavement, and should each feel distinct from one another. But Sony isn't the first to implement haptics into their controller. In fact, they're dead last. If you're curious how haptic feedback feels when playing a video game, try picking up a Nintendo Joy-Con or an Xbox One controller. Next up are the adaptive triggers, which will apply different amounts of resistance depending on what you're doing in the game. As an example given by Sony, pulling back on an arrow will provide gradually increased resistance. One feature of the DualSense that's not new, but rather updated, is the share button, which will now be called the create button. All Sony has said about the create button is that it will allow players to, quote, create epic gameplay content to share with the world, or just enjoy for themselves. It also might launch some sort of basic editing software so you can create custom clips to post online. Next up is the built-in microphone, which will allow you to chat with friends even without plugging in a headset. But Sony does warn that if you want to chat for extended periods of time, a headset is recommended. One of the most welcome changes to the DualSense is one that I mentioned earlier, and that's the USB-C port. Yup, the Sense will change via USB-C rather than the micro USB, which proved unreliable to say the least on the PlayStation 4. And speaking of charging, one thing we don't know about and what I'm incredibly curious to learn is the battery life. The DualShock 4 had very short battery life, and it would be nice if we didn't have to plug in our controllers during longer play sessions. There will be an available charging station, but that won't work while playing a game, and I'm guessing it will be sold separately. Finally, there's the form factor of the controller itself. It does appear that the DualSense will be slightly larger than the DualShock 4, but Sony said that they've put a lot of effort into making it, quote, feel smaller than it really looks. Since they have said all of this made me feel skeptical, but the fact that it seems similar in shape to the Xbox One controller makes me feel confident that the DualSense will be comfortable. As a very last detail, the light bar now surrounds the touchpad, making it much more visible than before. Alright guys, now it's time to get into the CPU. If you don't know what CPU means, however, it stands for Central Processing Unit. Alright, let's get into this. The PS5 features an AMD Zen 2 based CPU with 8 cores, but to understand what that means, we need to talk about how it works together with the PS5's GPU. To squeeze out every ounce of performance, this happens in a number of ways, but the one I want to focus on involves one of the biggest overall differences between the PS4 and PS5. Fair warning, I'm going to get pretty technical once again, but my hope is to make this section more consumer friendly than descriptions I've read or heard online. Okay, the big change here from the PS4 to PS5 is that the PS5 now allows for CPU and GPU to run at variable frequencies, or if you prefer, variable speeds. But what does this mean? Well, both processors will run for the vast majority of time at boosted speeds so high that they'll occasionally need to adjust or vary in order to keep the PS5 from exceeding its power budget. In other words, and this might seem counterintuitive, but the CPU and GPU will be working so hard they'll need to minimally downclock when you encounter part of the game that would have otherwise caused the system to, say, overheat or get really noisy with this system in place. The PS5 CPU will run for most of the time at 3.5 GHz, while the GPU will run at 2.23 GHz. For comparison's sake, the Xbox Series X GPU will run slightly slower than the PlayStation 5's GPU, while its CPU will run slightly faster than the PS5's, but keep in mind this isn't apples to apples because among other reasons, the Series X does not use a variable frequency approach. All numbers and technical jargon aside, what you really need to know is that the PS5 will achieve levels of performance that were otherwise unobtainable at temperatures that are safe, and hopefully at noise levels that are far more tolerable than the jet engine that Sony somehow crammed into the PlayStation 4. As for gameplay benefits, Sony hasn't gotten very specific. One additional feature of the PlayStation 5 CPU that I want to mention is called Smart Technology, which sends any unused computing power from the CPU to the GPU for increased graphical performance, which I think is on just about every gamer's wish list. So guys, let's get into the beautiful graphics that every gamer loves to see. First off, let's address the teraflops in the room. We've all seen that the PS5 GPU achieves 10.3 teraflops, as opposed to the PS4 Pro's 4.2 teraflops. But as I've discovered in my research, and as put quite simply by Digital Foundry's Richard Ledbetter, quote, teraflops are not a great indicator of the performance. That's because in every GPU console and the computer is different. For example, in the PS5 GPU, the individual compute units are packed with 62% more transistors than those in the PS4. And as you may know, the increased transistor count is tied to increased performance. Plus, the PS5 GPU runs at an enormous 2.23 GHz. That's more than twice the frequency of the PS4 Pro. Given these additional multiples, one PS5 teraflop is way more powerful than one PS4 teraflop. Also, it's not accurate to directly compare PS5 teraflop to an Xbox Series X teraflop, because the two consoles are built entirely differently. That being said, the Series X GPU achieves 12 teraflops, but it runs at a slower 1.825 GHz. Despite their differences, both consoles are said to be drastic improvements over the previous generations. Of course, the question remains, what can the PS5 GPU actually do? Well, here are some of the highlights. It will support 4K resolution at up to 120 frames per second if your TV supports it. It would also support 8K gaming, but don't expect many or even any games to take advantage of this anytime soon. In fact, while I do expect 4K to be a standard offering for most, if not all, big budget games at launch, I don't expect frame rates to be as high as 120 or even 60 frames per second to be standard anytime soon. It's up to the developers to achieve these benchmarks, but with every game world always pushing the envelope, I wouldn't be surprised if someone or even any game still runs at 30 frames per second, at least as the developers get used to next generation hardware. Moving on to the GPU, also supports ray tracing and other visual effects, which I'll get to soon, and it could run games built on Unreal Engine 5, which I'll also get to a bit later. Okay, let's look at ray tracing. Ray tracing is the ability to simulate in real time how many individual rays of light and sound will realistically bounce around within a game's world. To create more lifelike images and experiences, we saw what this could look like in the future when Epic Games showed off their demo for Unreal Engine 5. Microsoft has also shown off what ray tracing can do within Minecraft, and it's definitely worth a look now. This is the same technology Hollywood has used for some time to create lifelike CG images, but those images are all pre-rendered. In-game ray tracing often requires a real-time situation with hundreds of millions of rays per second, which takes some serious muscle. While the PS5 will support ray tracing, that's not to say it will be featured in every game. Also, it's totally optional for developers. There are also different degrees to which the developers can integrate ray tracing into their games for audio ray tracing. The PS5 will have to process less than 1 million rays per second, ray trace shadows and reflections. However, it could trigger the PS5 to process hundreds of millions of rays per second, while the full-on ray tracing could take billions. No doubt the PS5's graphics will be way better than the PS4's graphics. So guys, we are finishing off this video of my top 5 PS5 launch titles because we all want to know what games will be released with the system. So guys, starting off with number 1, Astrals Playroom. A somewhat follow-up to the critically acclaimed VR game Astral Rescue Mission, it was shown off during the June 11th PS5 event. While the event really didn't reveal this, but it will actually be a packing title for anyone that buys the PS5. It's said to be a 3D platformer that takes advantage of the DualSense haptic feedback as players explore worlds that showcase what the PS5 is capable of. Sure, it's not a VR game, which is a good majority of what made Astral Rescue Mission so great, but given how the team has done some really creative things with VR, I'm excited to see what they accomplish with the new DualSense controller and the new features regarding the PlayStation 5. So guys, number 2 I'm very excited about is SpiderMan Miles Morales. I enjoyed Marvel Spider-Man so much that I ended up ending the storyline 5 times. Insane, right? So guess what? A new Spider-Man game starring Miles Morales will also be on PS5 right at launch. According to the developers at Insomniac Games, has confirmed in a tweet that Spider-Man Miles Morales is a standalone game that continues the adventures of the video game Spider-Man. Guys, this one's gonna be a wild ride. So guys, going down to number 3, we have Rainbow Six Siege. Sounds familiar, right? A part of the popular tactical multiplayer shooter Rainbow Six Siege is another video game currently confirmed as a launch title by its developer. During an interview with Windows Central in February, Rainbow Six Siege director Leroy Anisoff stated, "What I can tell you is that we are going to be on the consoles from launch. Our target is to be available right at launch." He couldn't share a specific date, but confirmed that Rainbow Six Siege will be on the PS5 whenever it's released. All you basketball fans out there are gonna be excited. My 4th pick is 2K21. Guys, this 2K series has went so far. I'm so happy. Each game is very good in their own right. 2K Games confirmed that its next NBA 2K game will be on the PS5 this fall. NBA 2K21 is built from the ground up for PS5. The description of its reveal trailer teases, get ready for next generation graphics, load time, and power! If you enjoy sports games, it's good to know that NBA 2K21 will be available to you when the console releases. So guys, my 5th and final pick, we have Godfall! Epic guys, just epic. Godfall is a new hack and slash, loot-focused fantasy game from Counterplay Games and Borderlands 3 developer Gearbox. Footage from the game has also leaked. If you're curious about seeing what a next-generation game looks like in action, it was revealed for PC and PS5 at the Game Awards of 2019 in December, making it the first brand new PS5 title to be officially revealed. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I will leave you guys all with some extra PS5 upcoming gaming clips. And by the way, I think you all should get the PlayStation 5. It's fire. I will see you all in the gaming world.